Hi everyone, it's Catheliya. Still in my rental car. um, and today is going to be my first story. And I want to share it with you as a speech that I did at my Toastmasters meeting. So I'm going to ask everyone to close their eyes and imagine this for me, just for a few minutes. Imagine a beautiful woman with almond skinned, She's Asian, she's in her 20s, and she has her 2 young children with her. One she still has to carry around. That was me. She's leaving her home country for an image and a promise that she's made to herself to bring her children to America for their first language, or at least mine, to be English, and to be Americans. She didn't have her husband with her because she was also fleeing him. My stories are going to be very raw and sometimes very hard to hear. So bear with me sometimes. My mom was fleeing my dad because, unfortunately, not that my dad was a horrible person, like he didn't beat her or anything, but as I've learned throughout my life, my dad just didn't really make good choices in his life. And at some point throughout these videos, you will understand that I don't completely blame my mom or my dad for being the way they are or how we were raised. Because the more I look back at it, my mom and dad's parents were definitely not the nicest people and not the most loving or caring people. So if they couldn't show my parents how to love or be loved, how were they supposed to show us how to be loved? So I don't ever want you to think that when I tell you about them that I view them as villains, because I don't. I also view them as people that have been traumatized by their families and then just had to continue to traumatize their children. I'm fortunate that I had the ability to see through the trauma at such a young age, and that I learned to do better than them. So please understand that I'm not vilifying my parents. I'm just learning through the experience that I got through them. If I vilify anybody, it's my grandparents. because they were the ones who taught them to be this way. But if I go back deeper, who knows, right? I mean, I did meet my great-grandmother, who was 104 on my mom's side. And to me, she was a sweetheart. But who knows? Maybe she wasn't that nice to her daughter. But we will talk about that some other day, because there's so many stories about those people to talk about. I apologize if your eyes are closed. My mom is a beautiful Asian woman, and when she came, she was by herself, as in she didn't bring her husband or have a husband with her. She only had her children. I'd like you to imagine how she felt. You can open your eyes now. Vulnerability to me and to Brene Brown doesn't mean weakness as it does in the dictionary. It means courage to surpass that weakness and break through your fears, your anxiety, and your shame. And I have tons of it. When I was in the first grade, we went to St. Benedict Catholic, all German school in Chicago back in the day. Again in the 70s. And my parents wanted us to have good education. We are Catholics, so they wanted us to go to a Catholic school. I take that back. My mom wanted us to go to a Catholic school. The only problem was, we're immigrants from another country. We don't understand the desegregation. I honestly didn't really realize about desegregation until I was much older. We didn't really understand racism. And I was a little girl, luckily, who had an older brother who picked on me a lot. So when this kid came up to me in front of school and started pushing me and doing this thing with his eyes, which I don't even like doing because it's just so hurtful. And I thought he was playing, I don't know, trying to be my friend. And then I finally figured it out. He wasn't trying to be my friend. He was trying to say something to me. And he called me a chink. At first I thought he was speaking a different language. No, he was saying a racist word. Now, I don't condone violence, but back in the 70s, it was what you had to do to take care of yourself. So I did teach him a lesson. He lost a tooth. We went to the principal's office, and the principal said that I had to protect myself because we were the first Asians in an all-German Catholic school. And we back then, things were different. They weren't the way they were now. I was also the black sheep of the family. Because I broke all the stereotypes of Asian women. So when I went back to Thailand, I don't know, I'm going to say around maybe 9 or 10 years old, my Asian relatives, aunts, uncles, cousins, grandparents on both sides couldn't accept their Americanized granddaughter. So most of the time it was really hard for me to be accepted or liked by my relatives. I think the worst part, and the part that I wanted to get out today, because I honestly just told my mom yesterday about this, is she didn't know that this had happened. And I recognized, I think last week, that I had never told her about it. That when I was little and we were at my grandparents' house, my dad's parents' house in Thailand, I woke up one morning and I just came down at the moment that my grandmother was telling my dad not to love his daughter. And I looked at her in her eyes, and we both knew we would never be right with each other. And don't get me wrong, I'm okay with it now. But it all makes sense at why I don't have a lot of memories of my dad and I. And why, when I do, they're not always the most comfortable experiences. And why I sometimes do feel mad at him, even though he's not alive anymore. Because I bear these issues that I have to talk to my counselor about in counseling. But I want to tell you that everything that I said teaches you about vulnerability and how to overcome it. To be brave enough to face your fear and not give in to your anxiety or shame. I hope that you learn from this video. I hope that you learn to have the courage to stand up for yourself, because I do all the time. Again, black sheep, American Asian, not Asian. So thank you for listening to my story today. Till next time.